It was a Thursday morning, quiet as any other in the small town of Pine Hollow. The sun had just begun its lazy climb over the rooftops, bathing the ivy-draped walls of the town library in a golden hue. Birds flitted across the courtyard garden out front, their wings brushing the crisp morning air. Inside, the library breathed a soft silence, the kind that wraps around your shoulders like a worn, familiar blanket. Mrs. Eleanor Finch, head librarian for nearly 4 decades, moved through the aisles like a gentle breeze. Her fingers brushed the spines of books as if each one held a secret sheath long ago memorized. The library, a brick building with green shutters and oak bookshelves that reached toward the high arched ceilings, had become the heart of Pine Hollow. People didn't just come here to read. They came to find peace, routine, and sometimes each other. At 10:07 a.m., the brass bell above the door gave a cheerful jingle. In walked Nora Simmons, 45, soft-spoken, and unnoticed more often than she'd like. She carried a canvas tote and wore a look that suggested she wasn't quite sure what she was looking for, but she hoped to find it between the pages of something old and hopeful. As she browsed the biographies, a young boy, maybe 8 or 9, struggled with a towering stack of children's books. He wobbled like a sapling in the wind, each step a gamble. Nora stepped forward instinctively, placing a steadying hand on the top book just as the stack began to teeter. "Need a hand?" she asked. The boy nodded, cheeks reddening. "I wanted to surprise my sister. She's sick and she misses story time." Nora blinked. The boy's sincerity hit her like sunlight after rain. She took half the stack and walked with him to the checkout desk, where Mrs. Finch looked up, smiled, and nodded in understanding. That small act, simple, unplanned, was the moment the ripple began. Word spread faster than one might expect in Pine Hollow. The boy's mother, after hearing about Nora's kindness, stopped by the library the next day with a tray of lemon bars. She left them at the front desk with a note that read, "For the lady who reminded my son that kindness still lives in this world." Eleanor read the note aloud to Nora, who blushed and waved it off. It was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. Later that week, a retired carpenter named Hank Miller overheard 2 teens complaining about the broken bench outside the library. The next morning, he showed up with a toolkit and a thermos of black coffee. By noon, the bench gleamed with new varnish and sturdy bolts. He left a sticky note, "For story time," or "just watching the wind." Then came Alice Moreno, who brought in bundles of daffodils from her garden and arranged them in recycled mason jars across the reading tables. "For color," she said, "this place has always brought light into my winters." Soon, a chalkboard appeared near the entrance. "Kindness Wall," it said in curly script. People began writing notes, thank yous, encouragements, little stories of grace. "I found my lost wedding ring here 2 years ago. A stranger turned it in. Bless you." To the man who walked me to my car during the snowstorm, "You reminded me of my dad. I was going to give up on my writing. Then someone left a note in my book saying, 'You matter.' I stayed. I wrote." One Sunday afternoon, the library was unusually busy. Not loud. Never loud, but alive. Children's laughter echoed from the story corner. Elderly couples played chess in the nonfiction aisle. Teenagers, normally glued to their phones, were helping Mrs. Finch set up a new poetry nook. Nora sat near the window, her journal open but untouched. She was watching, and then the mayor walked in. Mayor Douglas had been skeptical of allocating more town funding to the library. He didn't read much himself, too busy, he always claimed. But the warmth of the room, The connectedness in the air caught him by surprise. He paused near the entrance, removed his hat, and stood silently as a teenager read a poem aloud about community and rain and small, untraceable acts of good. A week later, the mayor returned with a camera crew. The story went viral. It started with a local news segment titled, "Small Town Library at the Heart of Big Change." Within days, national outlets picked it up. Headlines read, "The Miracle at Pine Hollow Library." Kindness Wall sparks community movement. A well-known children's author offered to fund a new reading garden. A retired teacher volunteered to host weekly memoir writing workshops. Donations poured in, books, furniture, art supplies. But what mattered more than the donations were the stories. Letters came from across the country. "I read about what your town is doing. I helped my neighbor clean her yard for the first time in 15 years. My daughter and I baked cookies and delivered them to our fire station. Just because I started reading to my dad again. He has Alzheimer's, but your story reminded me that presence matters." On the anniversary of that first kind gesture, the town gathered in the library courtyard. There was cider and music, hugs and quiet tears. Mrs. Finch gave a short speech. Her voice cracked only once. It began with one small act. Not planned, not grand. Just a moment of human grace. And look at what we've built. Not just a stronger library, but a stronger us. Nora stood in the back, hand over her heart. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The boy, older now, taller, found her in the crowd. He handed her a copy of a children's book. Inside was a note. "You helped me carry my books that day. Now I help others carry their dreams. Thank you." Kindness is not a grand gesture. It is a quiet decision. A moment paused. A hand offered. And sometimes it is a miracle in disguise. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to The Kind Story. Help us spread these ripples of hope, one story at a time. Asterisk, asterisk. Disclaimer: this story is fictional or dramatized for storytelling purposes and complies with YouTube's policies.